It was a very happy childhood, regardless of the regime, regardless of the dictator, regardless of a lot of shortages. Meanwhile, the schools were great. My family was amazing. Not having much created such a desire to be creative, so you can invent it and you can make it. So with anything, a box of cardboard could have lasted, become so many other things. I'm very, very grateful for my childhood. My father was an architect, so it was always between his drawings and his magazines. His old architectural records, I remember from the 50s, were like my coloring books. My mother was a poet, so everything was kind of fun and bubbly. It was a perfect, wonderful childhood. I grew up raised by my grandmother that was living with us because everything was like in the old days. And my grandmother was Austrian, incredibly severe and incredibly exact. From that point of view, sometimes I do find myself being so thorough because of her and because of that part of the education. The rest of it was all about just having confidence in myself and not being afraid and always being told that whatever I put my mind to it, I can do it. It was a fairy tale. Every day was being able to work on those projects, being able to contribute to those projects, being able to collaborate with the people I was able to collaborate and work together, and breaking every possible barrier. My first job in the States was not with Ian. I was working with Grusin Sampton Steinglass, and it was a Hyatt hotel. And I remember getting the book of the Hyatt rules, and everything was supposed to be beige. We are coming back now to the beige hotel, but that's a different story. And I think it can be that all the hotels have to follow norms. And then I started working with Ian, and all the rules were break the rules. So it was creatively incredibly, it was risky from a point of view of inventing and reinventing everything, because you take a lot of risks, and let's say you're lucky 80% works, but 20% might not work when you invent everything. In those days, it's not like you had choices of 2 million lavatory sinks for bathrooms. There were 3 or 10. So everything had to be invented, and it had to be created for each hotel, which was like a dream for a designer and an architect. The Delano was the hardest I ever done in my life because of everything. It was the beginning of Miami. Nothing was there. We were like, and I remember sitting in that empty building at midnight with all these weird noises and pigeons running through the building. It was like, it was the hardest. But because it was the hardest to a certain degree, I think that I remember years after walking in the Delano and like having like, oh my God, I can't believe how beautiful it is. First of all, to make the decision, when I made the decision, was a bit out of the ordinary. At my age, to decide, I was doing great. It was perfect. But to say, no, 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 I want, before it's too late, to give it another try in a different way. I didn't know first that's what I want to pursue. I stopped working for Ian, and then I said, I have to figure out what my next challenge is. And then it just came that that's what I should do. It was hard because you are missing the group of people that you worked all your life. It's not the business aspect of it. I mean, I've done enough hotels and I've ran enough the business part of it not to be scared by that. It was the unknown. In the same time, the unknown is what made it so exciting. The challenge was a part that made worth it, this whole exercise. The hotels that I got to do after were in a way much more mine. And that is always a bit scary because you are really the last person and that's it. It's what you've done. You cannot hide behind anybody else. Because of 29 years, in a way, I was on the side of designing, but also running and also owning. The entity that was designing and running and owning the hotel was the same. You understand that being just a designer and making a successful product, it's really very difficult unless the owner is on your side. I totally understood the owner's point of view. I totally understood the client's point of view. You do a hotel and you hear complaints for 20 years. You don't want to hear complaints. that's why I approach a lot of stuff from an owner point of view, not just for, oh, this will be so pretty. No, no, no. Will this work? Will the people love it? Will it last? Will it kind of make sense in the budget? How do you spend your money? What's important and what's not important? Because for a designer, a lot of times, everything is important. For an owner and for the public, you have to make choices. And usually the designer presents everything and the owner decides what to choose. Well, I had to do both. So yes, in many ways, having to play all the time both sides was very helpful in being able to do successful projects. I watch movies a lot. I go to opera and concerts and theater. And I dream a lot. I daydream a lot. It all comes together like that. Sometimes I don't even want to look at magazines, but then I look through magazines. But I find that a lot of times the inspiration comes from a beautiful setup, not so much a static picture. I just came back from an amazing trip, and it's already like ideas. There are so many ideas that came out of that trip. Making places that people enjoy themselves. It's never about just the beautiful look, the beauty, it's beauty. But if the people cannot have a great experience and really enjoy themselves, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's beautiful in a picture, but it doesn't live and it doesn't evolve and it doesn't give back. And in a way, I always felt that designers that don't know how to enjoy life themselves almost cannot create places for people to enjoy themselves. It's a connection of the, I don't know, joy of life that translates in designs. Their values are different and they are more and more, I don't know, meaningful. The way they like to spend their money, the way they like to live their lives. There is something about this young generation that it's so inspiring. And that's why I always want to have them around, because if not, you become in your bubble and you lose contact, which was important for a lot of the projects. In a funny kind of way, it's about mixing with the young and seeing what's important for them. Because life, I mean, the world changes and you have to keep up with it. And I'd rather have it directly from them than being translated through people that interpret them. You know, I was so lucky that in my kind of professional life, I got to have dinner with Arata Isozaki, with Herzog and de Meuron, with John Paulson. I did amazing dinners with the most creative people of our generation. But right now, if I could sit with my parents and my grandmother and be able to show them where I am, it would be amazing.